Novo izdanje AJB Caféa bavi se korupcijom u javno-privatnim partnerstvima. Naši gosti iz regije su Ardita Seknaj, generalni sekretar u Međunarodnoj trgovinskoj komori u Albaniji, Mirella Dummar Frahi, šefica odjela za civilno društvo UNODC-a u Austriji i Dražen Jelenić, predsjedavajući regionalne antikorupcijske inicijative.
Welcome to AJB Café. So, Ardita, before we begin, what is a public-private partnership, especially in this context of fighting corruption?
Hello. Well, I will tell about both typologies of the public-private partnership. So, public-private partnership, what we listen every day and hear in television, is long-term contractual agreement between public institution, a government, and also a private partner, whereby the private partner generally would finance to build, to operate a public service provider, and that could be projects which could be in the infrastructure such as networks of transportation or roads or railways, parks, convention centers, whatever the government and the state needs to deliver to the public as a service. Or it could be also in terms of the service areas such as for hospitals or for utilities or other areas of need again for the public service. A second one, which now we are talking today, and I like to call it as, it's not official, but the soft PPPs in this case.
Which is public-private partnership.
Public-private partnerships in this case. That is a mechanism or a platform that is being used by the public sector again with a partner, which is a private sector, but nowadays it's much more expanded. It involves also other parties such as the civil society or the academia or media, youth organization, international partners, and whoever is interested in this part of partnership. And in general, the main goal for these PPPs, or the soft PPPs in this case, is first to enhance the dialogue on certain important reforms that the country needs to develop further on. Secondly, is to build on collaboration and interaction between the parties, again for major themes of specific interest. And the third objective could be also to come under initiatives that reach a common goal. When I mentioned, and I would like to address, when I mention specific themes, generally we have to do with very important and significant themes that touch every aspect of the economy. So they are complex, multi-dimensional, and also might cross a phenomenon which is cross-sectoral. And in this case, the fight against corruption is not something that can be tackled or fight only by one party, which is the government, but it requires all these other actors to be hand in hand with the government. But could be also other topics like environment or climate change in this case, or could be violations for human rights, or could be any other areas that is fundamental, let us say, to the society or to the economy. So these partnerships come into place exactly for this, to provide soft skills into the process so that it can enhance and build trust between all the parties.
So, Dražen, how do the countries of the Southeastern Europe perceive this public-private partnership, and in which activities regional anti-corruption initiative fosters it?
If we are talking about what Israel is doing on that theme or issue, we are implementing various projects.
Which are?
I will mention just two of them, because we were partnering in many conferences, forums, and so on. But let me mention two of these projects. One is just about to be ended soon. 3-year program, Southern Europe Together Against Corruption, where we had direct and indirect beneficiaries, and private sector was recognized as one of the direct beneficiaries. And within this project, two very important tools, let's say, were developed. One is guidelines with checklist for the sectorial corruption risk assessment, and the other one is corruption proofing legislation tool. The other project was named Regional Good Governance Public-Private Partnership Platform, and as the name of the title of the project states, we were dealing with good governance in regard the public-private partnership. But what especially we were doing in that project, we were addressing the public procurement gaps in the Southern Eastern Europe countries.
But Mirella, what about the civil society organizations? I mean, how are they a critical bridge between the government and private sector that Dražen was talking about?
Thank you, Leila. You know, the United Nations is mainly a member state organization, but the role of civil society is key. I'm very proud to be heading the civil society unit in UNODC, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, which is the guardian of this convention, the UN Convention Against Corruption. The role of civil society, it was a bit mentioned when you need someone a bit independent to be able to ask, for instance, for access to information in order to make sure that the hospital which was planned is really going to be built and is going to be built with the amount that was meant to be initially. Civil society also bring to the table the eyes and ear of communities, because they are very often part of this community, or they bring this expertise, and in this case it advances a bit the corruption, the fight against corruption. The other aspect where civil society is very important is to protect whistleblower, because someone is going to say, okay, this happened and that's wrong. And what my unit tried to do is to create network, for instance, at the regional level, to let people be able to help each other and also maybe protect if someone is a threat in his own country. Last thing, monitoring. Yeah, you need someone to monitor both what the business are doing and the government are doing, and to avoid collusion between the two, because we know these things happen.
But important role is also media and academia. So Ardita, how important is media and academia in fighting corruption in private-public partnership, or PPP as we call it?
In fact, every actor is equally important, let us say, in that sense, because everybody, if it plays its own role and takes its own responsibility, it's natural that
we have a healthy society.
Exactly. So I would say that for the media, and you are part of the media, you are recognized as like the fourth power pillar in the society, in the democracy. So the role of the media is instrumental, in the sense that they can have their input in a tangible way, but also in an intangible way, let us put in that manner. What I mean, the media is the first one, or the more direct partner to denounce corruption to the public, to provide the direct connection with the public, and to inform the truth how it has been seen by that one. Of course, here we have to put into line the information versus disinformation, and defamation and many other aspects, but that is exactly the role of the media. Secondly, also they put pressure on the actors, such as the public sector, but also the private sector, by denouncing corruption and where it comes from. And media also plays a role in an intangible way by raising awareness. If you look at the studies, and I was just having a look at a study in 2022 looking over the TVs and also how the media has a place in the consumers, let us say, consuming of information, providing information and news, it results that the televisions are the first choice for the consumers in the Western Balkans. Albania was not part of this study, but however, I think it should be more or less the same. Over 50% of the people are watching TV. So imagine what is the potential and the force that media has in that respect. Coming to the academia, they have a different role, but very instrumental and important. Why? Because they are the connecting dot between the government and the private sector as well, by providing not only the theoretical perspective, but also providing some statistically based data and evidence. However, we must notify and also we must take care that currently there is a lack of studies and research in the area of anti-corruption. There is a lack of data that serve them to have multidisciplinary research in that case, but also there is a lack of interest by part of also the academic. On the other side, we should not here forget about the individual, the journalist and also the professor at the universities, who are at the very end people that have their voice, and sometimes the academic staff, for example, acts also as an activist for the society. So they take place in these organization by raising their voice and also by becoming an inspiring individual for the whole society. So I find these two actors are very significant to bring forward the discussion, but also to complement what the other parties are missing already in the discourse and in the dialogue.
Talking about this complementing to each other, we have mentioned various very interdependent sectors. How does UNODC facilitate collaboration amongst them?
Well, UNODC and especially with UNCAC, the UN Convention Against Corruption, which has 189 countries ratifying, provides really the framework. It's the only international legal framework to fight corruption. And it has a Conference of the State Party, which is the governing body that meets every 2 years, and include also non-government that comes, civil society. And it has a review mechanism which creates a momentum and allow to have a look, you know, where do we stand in the implementation of the convention. This is why it was very important, as Dražen mentioned earlier, that we started in 2015 this project focusing on this region to bring together all the stakeholders and to let them be aware about the existence of this review mechanism where everybody can play something. We had we have trained 300 stakeholders through some 10 meetings or conferences, and I'm really very pleased and thrilled that we will be able to continue and jump to a second phase after obviously having looked about the result, and we had an evaluation, but we will be able to continue thanks to the support and the partnership of the Austrian Development Agency. So we will make sure that we can advance on the work against corruption in the region.
So, Dražen, how will RAI boost this genuine joint solution, and not only for PPP, but for other vulnerable areas when fighting corruption?
Their activities can be tailor-made for the country, member states, which are from, let's say, the same region, share the same problems or the very similar problems, and seeking for the, let's say, similar solution to such problems. We, as a regional organization, trying to reinforce the capacity of regional governments, civil society organizations, private sector and media to prevent and fight corruption, every of them within its own competencies, and straighten resilience of the country as such to corruption. What we also do is the work of the raising awareness and advocacy.
But also a roadmap, because UNODC together with RAI is formulating this roadmap for the next few years. So what is the trajectory of the program?
From UNODC point of view, we had the Conference of the State Party, which is this governing body of the UN Convention Against Corruption, that met last December and agreed on 12 resolutions, which will try to bring them in the next phase of the program. There are several challenges still. Of course, there is progress, but there is still a need to continue to raise awareness about the issue, to help the private sector and the civil society and government, bring them together, especially small and medium-sized enterprise. They don't have the time to get acquainted with this all big UN issues that still have an impact on them. Imagine before really UNCAC, so 20 years ago, bribery, which is an act of corruption that is criminalized by UNCAC, was a cultural issue. It was normal. You could see it everywhere. Now it is a crime and can be prosecuted. Whoever also have assets which are illicitly gained because of act of corruption. UNCAC has a chapter which is the asset recovery. It can stop immediately. All these states, the 189 states, can freeze the money. So wherever it is, it can go outside of the region, but still the money has to be frozen and returned to the communities.
If I may add even more, concept of the criminal liability of the legal entities. It was something that was not known in our region. So, which is, if we are talking about the fighting corruption by a means of the prosecution, which is very important, especially in this private-public partnership, if it leads to corruption.
To come up with that is that the fight against corruption is a never-ending fight. And even if you already have solved certain aspects, it will reinvent some other aspects. So it's multifacets. And you need every day to fit in order to find a proper solution. And also is not one size fits all. Even in the Western Balkan, in the region, even our countries might share similarities in terms of challenges, but also other problems. Still, the solution might not be the same, let us say, for Bosnia and Herzegovina or for Albania or for other countries. So you need to have the right interlocutors all the time to drive through these kind of partnerships and through the dialogue and through the mechanisms that are offered by the international partners, but not only, to provide the right solution at the right time.
Exactly. This leads us to our next question, which is the sustainability.
Yes, of course.
Exactly.
Because you are learning by doing, by monitoring your activities and the results of the project. Then you are deciding if you are going in this direction or you should try something, let's say, else. And actually, we can ensure sustainability by the lessons learned and results achieved. If you would like that things to go in that line, of course, the results have to be objective and have to be measurable.
Okay, so what's the role of the international partners, the UN included, when it's up to this, and how can they help for businesses?
More or less, the international partners are like the academia, the balance and the neutrality that they provide in. And I will connect it also with the region. For us, it's important if you are driving through this partnership to have exactly some forces which are natural, but that supports the idea. They are there with you, but they leave it you drive through the process. And that's the role that the international partners generally tend to be in this kind of cooperations. With very bipolarized, let us say, societies and economies, it's important that if you are tackling certain aspects of corruption or climate change, as I mentioned before, or any of these big challenges, you need to be as neutral but very close also to the society. And that's how the international partners has played a role. Despite the fact it's not only about financing that they provide and help building these initiatives and common initiatives, but also is this kind of sharing of experience from other countries that are more developed compared to the other countries. On the regional level, I would say, as far as I have seen the international partnerships more impactful on the regional level, and in this kind of collective actions a little bit less on the country level. And I can fully understand, because some of the institutions like the UN, for example, they look us totally as a region and they try to build on initiatives on regional level, and that has helped. For instance, I will give an example from ICC Albania. I always give that. A few years ago, one of these first initiatives of the UNODC, they gathered us from the region together with the civil society and the private sector, and they somehow submitted the idea of collaboration, of having these collective actions. And in fact, that is how it started. We went back, like us, to Albania and started talking with the civil society. It didn't work, frankly speaking. It didn't work at all. And then we approached the public sector, but at the same time we approached the EU delegation and the Dutch embassy in Albania, and how, when they come together, the international partners, the public sector was willing to come in a bottom-up approach rather than it would have been if we would have been there alone. So they are a big supporter in that sense, also in bringing on the table on equal terms all the parties.
So we heard, Ardita, about these collective actions for PPP, and because we're coming close to the end of the show, what are the future plans of RAI when it's up to PPP, the new acronym that we all learned?
Yes. Well, our strategic plans are, let's say, described in RAI Working Plan 2023 to 2025. We are going to try to explore furthermore public-private partnership and public procurement. We would like to extend our expertise of the corruption assessment, assess risk to the security sector and to environmental sector. And we would also like to include in our work, for example, bar associations within from countries from the region. So anyway, we are staying open for the new members, for the new partners, and we are staying loyal to our partners from the past, and hope that we will continue work with especially UNODC in the future.
And just for the end, talking about the UNODC, you mentioned the UN Convention Against Corruption. How important is it in fighting organized crime and criminal groups? And because they might also be watching this show and mapping the soft spots.
Thank you, Leila. Yeah, for the criminals who are listening to us, actually there is another convention, the older sister of UNCAC, is called the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, because we know very well that, corruption fuel organized crime, and all the traffic, whether we are speaking about traffic of human being, of of smuggling of migrants, smuggling of small arms, or even environmental crime, smuggling issues. It happens because there is a weak spot, which is the border and the officials at the border that can be corrupt through bribes. Therefore, we want to bring this element to avoid this kind of total working in silos between the two conventions, and this will be. It's one of the resolutions of the Atlanta conference, and we will bring it into our new project, and hopefully we will continue to be and increase actually this collective action, because criminals are very well, they have very good network, and we really need to try to be a bit stronger together against corruption, like the name of our project, and that we will continue in the second phase.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.